welcome to the Astrology and You podcast. I'm Kerry Hourigan. Today we're talking about the super full moon in Capricorn happening at 11 degrees and 18 minutes on the 3rd of July 2023. In astrology, we always look for the highest potential and expression of these energies, and this involves having victory over our challenges and difficulties. And it has been my experience that only good lies behind any problems or obstacles that we experience. Before we get into the podcast, I'd just like to begin by acknowledging the original land carers, the Awabakal people, where this podcast is recorded. I give my deepest respect to elders past, present and emerging. Just a reminder before we start, you can get a free mini astrology report. That includes a very detailed birth chart from Astrology and You. I created a video to show you how you can create a free birth chart with transits at astro.com, and both of these are really handy in any astrology that you're following. You can find the podcast on all the usual platforms, including YouTube, and any resources I mention will be found in the show notes below. The moon connects to our emotions, our intuition, sensitivity, and our inner security and safety. The moon relates to our subjective emotional filter we call an ego, and how we look at things from our own perspective through knowledge, experience, conditionings, always learning the lessons of life through the emotional body. The moon affects the ebb and flow of our emotions on a daily basis and can run quite high around full moons, and they can reveal where we feel emotionally blocked, getting our attention to look more closely at the origins of this cause so we can address and resolve them. One of the greatest lessons we can have is when we attach or over-identify ourselves to something outside of us. When these things leave in some form or another, whether that's a relationship, a job or money, this can cause a crisis, creating insecurity if we don't have good emotional management. And we just have to remember that insecurity causes fear and even terror until we learn emotional security comes from within first. I am now of the mind to bless a crisis, and that is not an easy thing to do, and be thankful as it has golden lessons that teach us many things, because we develop and we grow, mature and evolve through those experiences in our emotional bodies. So with the full moon, if we have the new moon signifying new beginnings, therefore the full moon, its opposite, is where we bring things to a completion, a culmination, and it's a time of harvest, point of fulfilment or an ending or release. The sun and the moon are in opposite signs in the full moon phase, both illuminating the signs and houses, which is the life area, in order to find that balance point. The casting of light from both the sun and the moon reveals what is hidden or kept secret, and this includes the emotional blockages. We can look at these things more closely as oppositions call for cooperation between energies for the expansion of our consciousness with learning strategies and diplomacy. And Capricorn is a cardinal earth sign ruled by Saturn, and it rules the 10th house, which is the gateway to the fourth quarter. And if you look at the fourth quarter, there's no fire in that area of the astrological wheel. The Capricorn archetype sends us inward to our internal world, aligning us with responsibility, discipline. It's also the inner father or inner authority. Capricorn makes us aware of our mortality and the realisation our time is limited here on earth, therefore we learn emotional maturity. Capricorn also helps us to be objective, and when we are addressing these obstacles and difficulties, even view things from a higher perspective to gain that knowledge and wisdom. Boundaries, limitations and structures all relate to the Capricorn-Saturn archetype, and so the placement of Capricorn and Saturn indicate to us where we need to work on our emotional maturity to evolve and expand our own consciousness. Because Capricorn rules the 10th house, we associate status and social position contributing to the community. And on a global scale, it is associated with the consensus, which is around 70% of the population. It also is associated with the top-down authority, such as governments, corporations, and bodies of authority. Capricorn and its ruler Saturn is where we learn to accept responsibility for our actions, and Saturn shows us if we put in the effort and get involved, we will achieve. We always must be aware of the shadow or the lower expressions as well as the brilliance of these archetypes. So the shadow of Capricorn can be seen as cold, heartless and unfeeling, and this can come across as being very harsh and can inflict great hurt. Those born with the Capricorn moon may often experience a cold or distant mother and can be seen by others as cold and heartless, when we know this couldn't be further from the truth. The moon in Capricorn is not easy. It isn't, and that's because Capricorn can be highly sensitive with little thought to responses that can be harsh and hurtful. This is due to the containment of emotions, where the person, for whatever reason, is unable to express their emotions freely. They can feel the emotional boundaries and limitations, and this creates pressure. For example, someone may say, "You never say you love me." Well, it's not that you don't love them, it's just that you can't say it, or it feels so uncomfortable and awkward, you find other ways to express it. Suppression, repression and depression are all part of the shadow of Capricorn. Depression comes from reflecting on what isn't working in our life. But this can be a blessing, because reflection sends us inward to look at what isn't working anymore, and we can become more aware of what needs to change. And of course, when depression causes a person to become detached from life itself, then you seek the help of a professional. But difficulties are all blessings in disguise, as they can give us so much and we learn so much, and are necessary for our evolution if we take the stance of looking at what challenges us, teaches us. Just a quick word on the polarity of Capricorn, which is Cancer. Cancer rules our emotions of inner security, where Capricorn rules our outer security, and this is why it's related to job and career. Capricorn is all about rules, regulations and laws, and can be rigid and intimidating. Here, Cancer influences and inspires to be understanding and be supportive instead of what can seem threatening. Cancer represents the inner child, and therefore one can feel extremely vulnerable because we're always learning. Capricorn is reminded of this in dealing with others. Saturn, which rules Capricorn, is retrograding in Pisces in a sextile to the Capricorn full moon and a trine to the sun in Cancer. And both are harmonious and positive placements, helping with creating new structures to accommodate a new future. The retrograde motion is where a planet appears to stop and retrace its journey, and this, of course, is an optical illusion, giving us the opportunity to revisit and review. So anytime you see that a planet is retrograde, like Mercury, for example, retrogrades around 3 times a year, this retrograde motion presents that opportunity to revisit and review what's gone before, so we can make the necessary changes to make things better and improve. The Saturn retrograde in Pisces will be here from the 17th of June till the 4th of November 2023. With the retrograde motion, we use all the RE words like revisit, review, repeat, and expose what isn't working, whether we can either let it go or try doing things in a different way. Depending on where this is transiting for you, it may relate to your finances, emotional responses, or your health. Boundaries may be lacking in certain areas, therefore boundaries may have to be reinforced. Pisces assists with exposure as well, and with Saturn relating to authority, we are seeing the corruption and misdeeds of those in authority. It's quite unbelievable when we see what's coming out. This exposure will continue as we see the downfall of corrupt leaders, secrets of the rich and powerful, and the corruption that is unraveling them, along with the systems that no longer serve everyone but only the few. What we must realise is these endings and beginnings are happening simultaneously. We have a trine of Saturn to the Sun in Cancer So with the trine of Saturn to the Sun in Cancer is also supported by the sextile of Saturn to the full moon and the sextile to Jupiter in Taurus. And this is just lovely as this links us to higher learning, a grander vision of the future and higher consciousness. And this will also support the new structures to accommodate the new future with Saturn in Pisces, and those structures will depend on the choices that we make. So very important to keep that in mind. Mars and Venus are conjunct in Leo, and these are opposing the full moon. So oppositions require cooperation and balance. With Mars and Venus in Leo being the masculine and the feminine, these energies are working together. Mars is leading the way and is very comfortable in Leo. Venus behind him is like a support. This could feel like support in a creative project, and Mars is giving you that fuel to keep you going. In relation to the full moon in Capricorn, the aspect is one that can be challenging, but as I said before, difficulties can be a blessing, as you may have to think about what structure and how you're going to do whatever it is that you have in mind in the best way for you. Pluto is also retrograding in Capricorn at 29 degrees, and Pluto is squaring the nodes. Will remain there also until November, and squares can present difficulties and challenges as well, but it's just a matter of finding another way to do things. So the nodes are the nodes of the moon, and the south node is in Scorpio with the north node in Taurus. The south node is what they call the tail of the dragon. It relates to the past, what's known and familiar. And of course the north node is known as the head of the hungry dragon, relating to the future direction, which is the unknown and unfamiliar. So with Pluto being in retrograde, it's just going over heaviest ground, just to revise and review, to observe what isn't working anymore. Pluto completely destroys. It is the planet of death and rebirth. So to recognize what isn't working anymore and to let it go. So the question to ask is, what do you want for your future, and what choices are you going to make to get you there? The nodes change signs on the 17th of July when the north node changes to Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars, so there's this driving force within these placements that are going to push us along. And the south node is in Libra, and it's on the cardinal axis, and they'll be there for around 18 months. The cardinal axis is action taking and also includes the signs of Cancer and Capricorn. So things are definitely going to get very, very interesting. Medically, Capricorn rules the bones, the teeth, the joints, the skin, body structure, the pituitary gland, and our general health. So some suggestions to think about during the full moon. As always, start a daily meditation practice and calm the body and strengthen your inner security. Let go of what isn't working for you anymore. Be in and with nature wherever possible. Revisit your general health and well-being practices and feel these energies in your body. And this is the way to learn astrology. It is so helpful, and it's amazing what comes to mind when you do this. So one of the most important things that I've learned is, in all difficulties and challenges come great lessons and teachings. And when I feel resentment, shame, guilt or anger, I breathe them out and I look at them and I think, what is this really about? I've been doing this for a while now, and I found it extremely helpful, and I actually feel a relief come out of my body. I also include the process from the lovely Byron Katie, and she helps me enormously. These emotions are dense emotions, and they are very costly to the body. They rob the body of health and well-being. When we're in these emotions, it's like walking through wet concrete. It's incredibly difficult, and we only attract more of the same. So I'm always truly grateful for these experiences, that it's taken me a long time to get here, but once you do, you just can't go back. I hope you enjoy the full moon in Capricorn. Thank you so much for visiting. I really appreciate all the likes and subscribers. It absolutely blows me away. God bless, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.